This is our Provar Spring 25 Release 1 webinar. The release is currently available on the Success portal. Just an update for everyone. There was a hotfix that had to go in for this Spring 25 release. So just letting everyone know that that is now currently available. The folks that are going to be hosting today, myself, Michael Dailey, product marketing, and then we also have Ravi from the PBU Director of Test Automation. So Ravi, thank you so much for joining me on this one.
Thanks, Michael. Hello, everyone.
I'll go ahead and hand things over to Ravi after I cover our agenda here. First and foremost, we'll just go over the Provar automation updates. So all the Salesforce changes in Spring 25 that we accounted for with some big updates there to consider. So we'll talk through those and how Provar was handling those for this current release. Then we'll go over some feature enhancements to the product that are outside of the Salesforce changes. So some things to announce there, and then some updates on the AI NitroX side of things. So we do have a new feature to announce on the AI front and some NitroX updates that may be interesting for those that are utilizing that. And then we'll just cover some future updates, and then we'll get into our question and answer. So without further ado, Ravi, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. So I'll be covering Spring 25 Salesforce release changes as a part of first section of the slide. So moving on to the very first one, advanced search window. This is one of the biggest change coming in Spring 25, where all the lookups window are now replaced with advanced search window. This is huge in terms of it impacts all the standard and custom objects, and we know like lookup is very commonly used across all the objects. So it is a significant one, and it is not just a simple UI change. It is a brand new screen that is now available or replacing the lookup screen. I'm going to show that in a minute in the next slide, but just talking about it, like it will have new controls, new buttons, totally a different screen. So it is something that will impact most of the Salesforce test cases if you are using lookup. There are some exceptions. So task and campaign objects are the ones that are exempted from this change, and they're still showing the old lookup screens. But other than that, all the standard and custom objects are showing advanced search window. Moving to the next slide and talk about certain differences. On the left, it's an old lookup screen in Winter 25 and the previous releases. On the right side, we have a new one named as Advanced Search. So if you see these two screens, these are two different screens. On the left side, it is the title, it is saying parent account. So all the lookups in the previous releases were named after the objects. For example, for account, it was account lookup. For case, it was case lookup. And for opportunity, it was opportunity lookup. Now on the right side, if you see, they have a common title. They're calling it as advanced search. So it is not object specific from the title, but it is a common name around it. So the second field is a lookup field on the left side. In the previous releases, we had account field as a lookup where you type in some name, it suggests you some options and you can select something. But now it has been replaced with a normal search text box on the right side. So you see the title says account name and you can just enter a text. It does not suggest you a list. You can just type in the name and you have to click on search button now on the Spring 25. Earlier it was auto search. You type in the initials and it shows you a list. But now you have to enter the text and click on search button to see the results. So once you do that, coming to the table part of it, on the left side, you see you have a hyperlink in the account name. So if you have to select one record from the lookup screen, you just click on that hyperlink and it's used to select the record. But now with the Spring 25, the changes are you have to click on the radio button. And then at the bottom, if you see, you have one additional button named as select. So as soon you select a radio button, you have to click on that button to select that record. So in short, like it's a whole new screen. It's just not a revamp of few controls on the same screen. That's where the impact is huge. For the reason, definitely it is used across the objects, custom and standard. Also, in terms of you have to create new scripts for these screens. It means if you were using old lookup screens that were having different controls, now you move to advanced search, your script will definitely fail if you are using any coded automation or any automation tool, because these are new screens. It cannot be made compatible in that way. So that's where it is a huge one from the Salesforce end, where it requires a lot of effort from our customer. So we have a small subset of pack where we have 100 test cases, and 80 test cases were using lookups. So it has a huge impact, like 80% tests were impacted there. So what we have done as a part of compatibility release, we have ensured like your old lookup screens or old lookup scripts that you have created previously should work fine in the latest one as well. It means if you have steps added for account lookup, case lookup, opportunity lookup, the same script will execute fine on this advanced search screen as well. That saves, huge time for our customers. Like they don't have to recreate all the script for all the lookups or all the test cases. We are providing the compatibility so that you can keep on using your old lookup scripts on the new Spring 25 release as well. Also, not just about the execution, even if you try to map something as a new test script on the screen, like mapping these controls, search buttons, radio buttons, and select button, everything will work fine now. So we have provided that compatibility. We had to do some adjustment so that our old scripts are compatible, but it is keeping in mind, like it will save huge effort from our users. It has saved a huge effort for us as well internally, where we saved significant amount of time and could focus on the release actually. So this is one of the biggest change coming in Spring 25, and Provar is providing all the compatibility around it. Our existing user don't have to worry about anything. They can still use the old script. It will keep on working. You can focus on the functional aspect of the release. So just wanted to talk about it. Moving on to the next one. LWC rendering. So as we know, Salesforce is gradually moving towards LWC framework, whether it is standard component or custom components. The same is being followed in this release as well, where we are seeing LWC migration for Path Assistant. Path Assistant is something not mentioned explicitly in the release notes, but this is something that we found. It was a normal DOM structure in the past. It was not Aura. It was a normal DOM structure, normal framework that has now been rendered to LWC. Similarly, list views that were rendered in Aura in the past has been now migrated to LWC. Similarly, stacked model, like the pop-up window that we see on the screen to create the record, those were rendered in the normal DOM structure, now rendered in the LWC style. On the right side, you see an example of Path Assistant, where we have a path component. When the framework changes from Aura to LWC or from normal DOM to LWC, there are huge changes in the DOM structure. All the tags usually are replaced with a new one, with the slots, with some LWC tags. All the properties are also updated. So in short, like if you're using any coded automation relying on the structure, hierarchy, and the tags and attributes, those will be impacted big time. List view and stack model are also mentioned as a part of release notes as well. Salesforce has notified in the release notes they are making these changes, and it will have impact on any coded automation tool. However, Provar is compatible again. Our user don't have to worry about updating any script. The same script will keep on working fine. Whether you are getting new tests, those will also work fine. Moving on to the next one, ICU Locale format. So there was a reason why it is in the list. So ICU Locale format change notification came first time in winter 20, but it had been optional all the time. Like user had option to opt out of this particular change. Now it is mandatory as a part of Spring 25. That's where we have mentioned it again as a part of our release webinar as well, in the release notes and on the blogs as well. It is now enforced, means like you cannot get rid of ICU Locale now. What it does, it changes certain formatting of date field, time field, date time field, currencies, numeric values, means certain commas, certain punctuation. So you will see changes across the board on these type of fields. What it does, like it replaces, earlier it was Oracle JTK Locale format, that is now replaced with ICU1. On the right side, we have an example of English India Locale, where before ICU, this was the date format, and after ICU, there is a small comma added after the date. So based on the locale that you have, it could be a minor change, it could be no change, or it could be a big change as well. So if you are using any hard-coded value around date assertion, or if you are using date format to convert any particular date into a specific format, you have to make sure like you are updating those expected value or hard-coded values However, if you are using Provar Datetime Editor, those should handle all the changes automatically, just in case if you are using hard-coded value or any specific variable to format the date, you have to make sure like you're updating that accordingly and matching with the ICU locale format. So this is the one that we wanted to point out because it might impact your script's execution as well. Moving to the next one, it is an interesting one. I added it into the slide. Again, no impact on our users. Just wanted to highlight because Salesforce is also improving in terms of keeping things in sync with metadata. So there was certain discrepancy in the path that we had to handle earlier, where on the right side of the screenshot, you see a small section that is record layout. We usually have some hidden section as well in the record layout. And those hidden sections are pulled in the metadata files as well. But on the UI, these were never rendered as a section because these were always hidden. Now Salesforce has fixed that. Now UI, metadata, DOM structure, and record layout all are in sync. Means they have added one placeholder on the UI. Definitely, visibly, it is not available, but in the DOM structure, there is a blank section available. What it does, like it keeps the hierarchy intact in terms of as a part of calculation or algo that runs on the page to calculate blank section and section that has value. So it is now accurate, does not impacted by discrepancy on the UI. So that's what we have accommodated. I wanted to point out because if you have been using any locator considering these hierarchies, the indexing of these record tags, then those will be affected. Now Salesforce has kept it in sync, and then Provar is also kind of working fine in these scenarios. Impact was huge because it is impacting all new edit screens. But yeah, as I said, like Provar is compatible with all these changes and will have no impact on existing scripts. So we have seen DOM changes around recent items, related list single, and these changes are pretty specific to the card layout. So for the related list, we have two views. One is tabular format and second is card layout. So this change is in particular to card layout, where in the card layout, there are some DOM structure changes happening. It is not a framework change. They're still keeping the same framework, but they had done some minor changes around the framework that has changed the rendering of these elements on the page. Anything that is coming as a card layout is impacted because of that. However, yes, Provar is compatible. And then if you're using any coded automation, you have to make sure like you're aligned with the new DOM structure available for these card layouts, and you're updating the same in the scripts. Now I'm listing down a few additional changes that are coming as a part of Spring 25. A few are mentioned in the release notes. There are a few that we found internally. So I'll just call out a few that I found were interesting. The first one is around the classic screens. The reason of including it, like we have not seen any change around the classic from Salesforce for a while. This is the first time they're mentioning it in the release notes as well. And there are some behavior changes on the date time calendar on the classic screens. Again, these are not metadata related changes. These are not related to DOM. This is just the behavior on the UI. When you click on the time calendar pop-up, it remains on the screen even if you tab off. So tab off is very common functionality for automation that we use. What it does, like even if you tab off, that screen does not get closed and next execution for the field usually fails. So this is just the behavior change on the UI. However, like we are compatible with this latest release and does not impact anything. I just wanted to call this out on this webinar because Salesforce is making some classic specific changes as well. I'm sure like not many people are using classic, but just wanted to point out. Next one is around publisher action on navigation in FSL. This is in particular to the work order. We have multiple publisher action on the work order. Those navigation have been impacted again because of DOM structure changes and some rendering changes. But that had been again handled as a part of this compatibility released. Third one is specifically mentioned in the release notes, and they are calling it out as a change that impacts the coded automation tool specifically because now the base lightning component DOM structure are changed. It means like whenever those components, whether those are standard or custom renders on the UI or on the web page, they will have a different DOM structure, and that certainly impacts any coded test automation tool. It is mentioned in the release notes. If you want to learn more, go there and see the details. They are providing a big list, what all components are impacted. And we are also mentioning it in our blog if you want to see the detail, what exactly is impacted. But yeah, they are mentioning it explicitly in the release notes, like these will impact the test automation tools. The last one is, again, very popular in the developer community around refreshed visual style. A new theme that is called as SLDS2. In the release notes, they're calling it as a beta feature because it is still not available for all editions. It is available for a starter pack or pro start trial, if I'm correct in that naming that edition. But it is not available for enterprise edition or any further editions. So we still have time to see it in the actual org, but we have done some initial analysis on the vanilla org in the starter packs, starter trial logs, where we haven't seen any issues with these new UI. We're assuming things will be compatible, but we are keeping an eye. But if you guys are using any SLDS2 in your development or your org, we're happy to have a chat and understand what kind of changes these are and what could be the kind of implementation that you could come up with. So we're keeping an eye on this. Whenever it is available for Enterprise Edition and other edition, we'll be definitely covering it and giving a full report on that. But for now, this is something that is pointed in the release notes. So just wanted to highlight, initial results are pretty good. We are compatible with that, no issues, but we are keeping an eye. A few things that we have mentioned in the release notes. We also have a blog published on the website. So we have added additional details there. We are happy to have any conversation. If you are willing to learn more, go to the website, learn about it. If you have any questions, reach out to us.
I think we're moving on now to some new features and enhancements to the product. This is outside of the Salesforce Spring 25 updates. I'm going to kick things off there with the first one, Ravi.
The first one is one enhancement around user-specific translation. So we support user-specific translation for all fields and all labels. It is still supported even today in the previous versions as well. But there had been a gap around picklist and multi-picklist where all the picklist values and multi-picklist values were appearing in the org-specific language rather than user-specific language. Now we have enhanced implementation. All the labels are shown in the user-specific language, whether it is in TV, in the studio, or on the UI. So we are in sync with that. So that was a gap that we have covered as a part of this enhancement and is available in this release. Moving on to the next one. Next one is Consolidated HTML and JUnit report. So Consolidated HTML and JUnit report is applicable for test cycle execution. So where you are choosing rerunning all the failed test cases and want to see the consolidated report at the end. We have already supported PDF consolidated report in the past. It is already available. It is GA. However, HTML and JUnit report were not consolidated in the past. So this is the enhancement that we have made as a part of this release, where now HTML and JUnit reports are also consolidated. And as I said, like this is applicable for test cycle execution only. When you are rerunning the failed test case multiple times and want to see the final report in the consolidated format. So that's where we are coming with this enhancement for HTML and JUnit as well. So now all three formats are having the consolidated report, PDF, HTML, and JUnit. So this is also available as a part of this release. Michael, over to you.
This has already been available, but we're just kind of announcing it here with some extended communication to you all about what this entails. We already have a documentation page that's live for AI test data generation. So if you go to our documentation, you can find that there. And I even sent a little bit.ly link that has more information there. So you can type that in, that'll take you there. But just kind of to summarize what this is, the goal behind this is to simplify bulk data creation. And this is particularly useful for sandboxes, for seeding test data, and also for Scratch orgs for managing bulk data in terms of testing. This is something that normally is done either through a developer team or manually or even a batch process or something like that, which can take a lot of time and effort and ultimately ends up taking just a lot of time away from your testing process. So just wanted to kind of streamline that a little bit. That's the goal behind this. When we say it is in the test palette, it's basically just a drag and drop function. You'll find it in the Provar AI section, which is a newly added section in the test palette. That will have more updates to come in the future as well. So be looking for any AI updates to Provar automation within that test palette section. But for now, you can utilize that test data generation Basically, the way that it works is you can drag and drop that into your test case, and then it works in tandem with our Apex bulk API. So rather than if you're wanting to insert 100 or 1,000 records into your org, it's not 1,000 API calls. It's a bulk API call. So it leverages that to be a little bit more efficient. And of course, it takes a fraction of the time. Additionally, I do want to shout out that this is disabled by default, but it can be turned on via the Provar INI files. So this is within the Provar installation directory on your machine. You'll find the Provar INI file there, and then you can update it to the correct parameter to enable AI settings within Provar Automation. There's also a command line argument if you're wanting to utilize this via Ant or the command line interface. As far as what those parameters are, you can find out more information, like I said, in that bit.ly link there, or you can just search our documentation for test data generation. And of course, I do want to note that this is an AI-powered feature, so the generated data could be incorrect in about 5 to 10% of use cases we found internally. So just something to be aware of there. And I have some nice little screenshots there to kind of show you what it looks like, but basically you'll get a generated data sheet, which is that top level diagram. And then once that bulk API call is complete, you can go into the setup page in Salesforce and confirm that. You even get an Apex job ID. So you can go and look at the records that were inserted, the number that were processed, the time it took, and you can utilize that ID to even perform a mass delete of those records that were inserted. So utilizing that bulk API gives us the capability to do that. And then the bottom there just shows all the records that were inserted during that time frame using that call. So just wanted to shout out that new feature that is now currently available in Provar Automation. Additionally, we did have some updates for NitroX. So for those of you that are utilizing NitroX and liking it so far, we have some additional updates to be aware of. There will be some things to come in the future, but for right now, the things to be aware of in the current release are the Lightning data table supports. So we added a number of different tags to NitroX to be able to support standard mapping of Lightning data tables. So this will be widely applicable to all across all of your Salesforce applications and Experience Cloud and things like that. You'll also see a different UI for Test Builder for class attributes in NitroX in this release. So on the right-hand side, I've showcased that. So you'll be able to see that we can multi-select different class attributes natively whenever you're mapping these fields initially. So this gives you just greater flexibility in terms of your NitroX fields that you're mapping and the capability to do that within inside of Test Builder. You'll also see some additional logging for debugging purposes within the automation logs, the execution logs for NitroX components. This just gives a little bit more information. The enhancement, I believe that was made for this one, was not necessarily additional information that's available, but the information is now available in runtime, in live time. So rather than posting all the information at the end of the execution, you'll now see it at a step-by-step level. Okay, so those are the major feature enhancements and updates for this current release, and we went over all the Salesforce changes on our side for Provar. I do want to give a glimpse into the future state here and go over a couple things to be aware of coming from us in the near future. You will have already seen an update on our success portal, as well as some comms that have gone out on the forums and via email around this, but Java 21, we do have an upgrade plan in place. So just things to be aware of. The target completion date for this is end of January. What that looks like for you all is that this will be available in the next upcoming release. And I will say that with an asterisk, that is the current plan, given that there's no new findings on that. And if you do want early access to be able to test these on your own instances, your own infrastructure to make sure that there's no compatibility issues, early builds are available upon request. You can reach out to your CS team or raise a case via the portal, and we can work with our product team to get you an early build to start some early testing if there's something that you want to verify on your end. But this is just the plan for Java 21, something to be aware of. And again, the reason why we're doing all this is just part of our ongoing commitment to leverage the latest Java technologies that are available for Provar to give us more flexibility in our platform and also just security and things like that that come along with it. So just wanted to put that out there. One last update I'll say for us for the future, a little plug here since I'll be on this one as well. But at the end of the month, be expecting our first webinar around Agentforce. So this will showcase myself going through an overview of how to test Agentforce at a high level, and then talking about it at a Provar specific level. What are some things that we can do to test Agentforce in an end-to-end scenario? So a lot of people are utilizing Agentforce or looking into it. So we wanted to kind of come out and say that we have a strategy around this, how to test it, what are some best practices, and give you all some good knowledge there going forward. We also wanted to say that we'll, of course, be at Salesforce TDX this year. This is going to be in early March, so come and meet the team there. If you are a customer, we'd love to talk with you. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and kick things off in our Q&A now. We did have a couple of questions come in already. I think there was some in the chat as well. I'll check that. But I'll just kind of take these line by line. Our first question that came in here. I think this question came up whenever you were showcasing the LWC changes to the status paths on the screens for objects, Ravi. So this was the question here. It says, regarding those path assertions, do we have any built-in logic? The scenario that they've said is they need to assert the active status in the path. Any help from Provar? I can take that one, or if you want to take that one, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I can go for it. So yeah, there are multiple ways to assert that. For example, whatever is shown on the path as an active state, I think we always have a pick list around it. So one thing that you can do it via API. I mean, it will be pretty quick, take seconds to assert a field and know the current status, current selected status. That will give you the current selected status. On the UI also, you can go to the page, do the assertion on that particular field. That is second way. Third way is around, yes, you can actually assert the value in the path, but yes, it will require two-step, assert the current state and then check the button status. Because once you select that and check the button status, it should not be marked as complete. If it is not marked as complete, then it means like it is selected. So there are multiple ways you can assert the active state, and you can opt for one that suits best to your scenario.
Yeah. And just to add to that, it's all built in. There's no custom logic or anything like that you need to configure. If you're working out a test builder, you get those UI asserts built into the tool, so you can do any kind of assertions on those status in the path there. We had another question. Seems more like an inquiry. Looking for documentation and help on mass insert and mass delete using bulk APIs. I believe we have some documentation available for the AI test data generation that references the bulk data API. So that would be kind of my first resource I would recommend you go to take a look at. If there's anything missing, if you're finding gaps, please do let us know and we can update those pages as necessary. But for now, that would kind of be my one-stop shop for that if you're wanting to use that feature. Otherwise, it works similarly to how our SQL query support works, except it's working on a single object, and usually it's utilizing a data source to insert, and then for the deletion process, it's utilizing that job ID. So once you have the job ID, you can perform that mass delete using the bulk APIs. Hopefully that answers your question or gives you the right path to go to. This was a question around the tooling API, which we did talk about the hotfix that was now available on the Success portal, but the question is the tooling API wasn't working with the recent release, and did that get fixed?
So I'm not sure if I'm understanding that correctly, because I think the previous issue that we were facing, we already have a release available on the website that we did just before this webinar. So go and take the latest one.
Yeah.
If you're talking about SQL tooling specific feature, yes, I think one feature had been pulled out. And if you are specifically talking about it, because I'm not sure like whether it is specific to that or not, but if you are talking about that, yes, I think that feature will be available in coming days.
Thank you for that update. And we had a couple of other questions that came in through the chat. The first one is says, what is the plan with Omnistudio, and will there be more documentation for writing tests using Omnistudio? I can take maybe the kind of the second half of that question and just kind of go over what our strategy is around for testing these different things and also releasing different external sources for you all to reference whenever you're testing these. We are actively working through kind of evaluating Provar across all these different Salesforce technologies. And part of that is definitely focusing on things like Omnistudio and Experience Cloud. So we will have extended documentation on those in the near future, which will go over how to write test cases on these different systems. But by and large, the process is the same as anything else inside of Salesforce. You utilize Test Builder, and we'll give you all of the inbuilt support using the metadata and NitroX and page objects. So hopefully that answers part of your question. I don't know if you have anything to add for Omnistudio there, Ravi.
Nothing from my end.
Okay, just parsing this question here. So this came in through the chat. Having some issues related to Flexipages and NitroX identifying a particular component. Hence, we are opting to use page objects. Is there a way to have better XPath identification from Provar? Because sometimes the suggested XPath in Test Builder is not working there. I know this is definitely something that we're talking about a lot internally. Ravi, if you had anything to add there.
Yeah, I think I think you pointed out few enhancement that is coming as a part of this release as well, where we have enhanced attributes available, an option to select the robust XPaths. I'm sure this build should fix that, but if not, and I would suggest maybe raise a case and then someone can look into the details, because it's pretty difficult to identify what exactly the issue is and in which scenario it is not working. So I'm hopeful with these enhancements, it should be better and it should be more robust. But if not, please do raise a case and then we can look into the details.
Thank you so much, Ravi. And we had another question come in here through the Q&A. It says, in the future, are planning any cloud environment to run the tests just to remove dependency from the local system? So I can maybe take that one. I will say we do currently have that capability. For those of you that are already utilizing Manager and Grid, that is our cloud-based infrastructure that you can utilize for execution in the cloud. If your concern is around utilizing local system resources to run Provar automation, then yes, we could talk more about that if you want to reach out to us and kind of discuss your use case, but that would be my response there.
Along with that, even on automation, we have integration with a Lambda test, browser stack, another cloud environment where you have some custom environment, we can integrate to that as well. So we have our own one as well, but we also allow the integration with other cloud execution servers as well.
Yep. Thanks, Ravi. We had, looks like maybe our last question that came in here regarding Provar Assistant. Any updates from Provar Assistant? I actually think we had a recent update for Provar Assistant has that been GA, Ravi?
Yeah, that had been. I think it is the model upgrade behind the scene.
Yeah.
And it should be published on the website, so it should be available.
Okay. Yeah, and if there's any specific feedback around Assistant, such as the common AI issues like hallucinations and incorrect answers and missing documentation references and things like that, definitely let us know so we can address those. But we'll be working on improving the model going forward for Provar Assistant. It's going to be a continual effort there. Oh, we did have another question come in. I'm using data-driven testing and having issues. For first iteration, it works fine, but all the rest, it fails. I will say that's an interesting question. I probably would need to know more about your specific use case to understand what it is you're trying to do. For why it would be working for the first iteration and not for the rest. Yes, so if you have a specific scenario and you're using Provar for that currently, it's not like a error or anything like that. I would definitely suggest maybe reaching out on the forums. That's a good place to start. See what other people are doing and maybe get some feedback there on how to go about it. If it's kind of a logic change or just something that you can change on the back end to get it working. But I would definitely go to the forums first to see if there's anything differently that you can do.
Yeah, and I'm sure this is working pretty well. We commonly use this data-driven testing. Things are working fine. So it might be related to certain configuration, certain step that you're using inside the loop to iterate through. So yeah, I think worth having a detailed look into your scenario to understand.
And we had another question come in through the chat here. and I know this is something that we've been looking at too, Ravi. So this question is around, it says, are there any updates in relation to ant run, ant execution? They asked because they notice that it's behaving differently in Provar locally and Bamboo, I think is the point that's being raised here.
Yeah, I think I've been searching for these kind of issues. I mean, haven't heard recently anything around it, but yeah, I think we would love to hear these feedback because this is what we are focusing on, and we had made certain improvements in the past as well. But if there are scenarios, like we're happy to hear more on that. But yeah, I think in general, we expect everything should work in the same manner, whether you're running it locally on Bamboo or on any other server. There should not be any behavior change. But if there are, please do report. We want to hear these kind of feedback.
We had a couple more come in through the chat. This is an interesting one. Says, heard there will be new UI for Provar Desktop. Any update on that? Not sure what I can and cannot share, but I will say, yes, there is an update coming. So be on the lookout for that. And if you are a customer and currently looking at Provar and evaluating, or if you're just looking at wanting to get more information, we can definitely connect with you through our CS team if you'd like to be a part of that early beta process. Okay, there was a follow-up here. I think this is from the data-driven portion, but again, hard to tell exactly what may be happening in your specific scenario. We haven't noticed anything in our end that is not working correctly, but yeah.
Do raise a case. I would suggest do raise a case and pick it on priority if there is some differences, because we are not seeing any. But yeah, we are happy to look into your scenario as well.
Well, thank you all so much for coming. Hope you all enjoyed this webinar and are excited for these changes and enhancements to hit you. They're now available, of course, on the Success Portal. 2.15.1.2, I believe, is the current version. And I did not share this, I think, but the next release will be available coming in March as well. So be on the lookout for that with some updates to come. And any updates from us, just be on the lookout for those via the portal or the forums. So thank you all so much. Have a good rest of your day.